Test, test, test. Mic 1 5, test. Test, test, test. Mic 2 5, test.
in the meeting schedule, and thank the board and everybody for allowing that leeway. The beginning of the year is kind of tough. There's not a whole lot of activity, and I just couldn't see putting all the board together and all the staff together for a very, very short meeting. I want to be always respectful of everyone's time, so thank you for allowing us to do this joint board meeting. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Angela. We'll have the prayer and the pledge.
Good morning. Let us pray. God of love, we seek your guidance and wisdom as we discuss matters of importance today. Clear our hearts to maintain an environment of collaboration and harmony. Fill us with your courage and perseverance, enabling us to lead by example and inspire others. And remind us of our abilities to make sound decisions that benefit JPS and the communities we tirelessly serve. Amen. States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any citizens wishing to address the board? I see none, so we'll carry on. I'll ask for approval of the minutes of the Joint Board of Managers and Finance Planning Investment Committee meeting on December 12th. So moved. Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Quick board chair report. I just want to say there in December, we had the opening of the Medical Home Southwest Roy Brooks in December. I don't think we've met since then, but that was a very well-attended event at a really, really fantastic facility that's going to be one of the crown jewels of our health network. Exciting to see the thought that went into that facility. And the planning and the architecture and the openness and welcoming and invitingness of that facility. It was a great job. So we had that ribbon cutting. We expect to get that facility online here real soon after getting it, all the equipment and everything in and situated. So we're looking forward to that. I alluded at that meeting, if you like the way that this facility looks, wait until you see what we're doing at the PEC that'll open this summer. Really, I'm very proud of our team and everybody, the architects and engineers that put those buildings together, because they really are, I've always said we're setting the tone for a complete change in healthcare in Tarrant County. And in some ways, part of the care is feeling good when you actually go into a medical space, and you have to feel good going into those. Certainly the Medical Home Southwest and even our parking garage is going to look pretty amazing. So we're excited about that, and I just want to tip my hat to everybody that had a role in that project and the ones going forward. We are setting the stage for something really spectacular for JPS. So thank you. Dr. Duncan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's the garage that keeps giving. Just gets bigger and bigger. But Happy New Year, everyone. As Roger mentioned, 2024 was truly an exceptional year that we got loud about. Speaking of getting loud, I did ask Derek and his team back there to key up the Ohio State fight song, at which he said, "I am concerned that you will no longer have a contract with the board." But in case none of you saw the game Monday night, oh, okay. Yes. So anyway, I had to get that in there. Last year, we took tremendous strides to fulfill our mission to transform healthcare and be the hospital of choice in Tarrant County. We continue to focus on our three strategic priorities, which have been access, workforce, and financial sustainability. We ended the year with strong financials. We improved access by making significant progress on the master facility plan, and also by developing new strategic partners. We improved employee engagement, which we all know if the workforce isn't strong, the hospital is not strong. And we had a lot of events and a lot of strategic initiatives that were implemented. But most importantly, we focused on what is important, which is quality of care for our patients. And that was reflected in a successful Joint Commission survey, which concluded with no conditional findings. So we have a video that summarizes, and we hope that we can take this out into the community, but we have a video that summarizes our highlights of 2024. So we will play that for you. Oh, was that to advance it? Okay. It's a new year. So thank you again. As we start 2025, it's hard to believe a year has gone by, and we look forward to another exceptional year. I think we have shown our commitment to the mission and to the community we serve. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. It's really great to see, and the videos are fun to go back through some of those memories, even though they're not too distant. It's fun to see that stuff, so thank you. Next up, we'll have a report from medical executive staff. I don't see Dr. Casey.
Yeah, he's actually on service, so we'll run through and run through the credentials here.
Okay.
And recommend appointment. There was one little request for a waiver. If we want to talk about that, it probably should go to.
Yeah, we'll go to close for that.
But otherwise, all were recommended and approved.
We'll talk about that in close, and we'll wait for the approval minutes after the closed session, or approval of privileges after closed session. Okay, thank you. There's no committee reports in action this month. And next up is reports and updates not requiring board action, which is master facility plan construction update. We have some new faces to the team here.
Good morning. I have Cam here. Y'all know Cam from Broadus Levis. He's been our program manager over the last, how many months now? 7 months. Cam is going to be transitioning off the program. His family is in Austin, and so he will be taking on some projects related to Austin area for Broadus Levis, and Broadus has brought on our new program manager, Glenn Deaver, to our program. So I don't know if you would say a little bit about Glenn. And
Yeah, so we recently promoted Glenn into the program, and regrettable for myself for coming off this program, a public program, a county program, which has been absolutely fantastic to serve, and an honor that I've had and the privilege of doing so. It's just an absolutely amazing program, and JPS team, even our contracting partners are excited about what we're delivering to the county. But family calls. I'm in Austin, and after 30 years of military service, I want to be a little bit closer to my family as I get a little bit older each day. But Broadus Levis team commitment was to find a program manager. I think that in Mr. Glenn Deaver that you'll be pleased with. Brings a wealth of knowledge, an architect, licensed, has worked in healthcare for well over the last 20, close to 30 years, if not more, in design and in construction, and was down in the Central Texas area and obviously switched families, not our families, but is relocating back up here to the Fort Worth area. So it'll be a little bit closer to home and a part of the community in the county a little bit more than myself was, if you will. So Glenn, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm excited about the opportunity. My wife and I are moving. My middle daughter lives in, I have 3 daughters. My middle daughter lives in Grand Prairie, so I'll get to be closer to her. And so we're excited about moving here and being a part of this community. We've loved it for a long time. And so I look forward to working with you, carrying on the good work that Cam did, and we're going to keep moving forward with the program. I've learned enough in my career to know what not to do a lot of times, and that's important. And so we're going to move forward and try to do my best. I'll do my very best for y'all. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Glenn. Cam will provide our update for the month.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Lynn, are you new with Broadus, or have you been with Broadus?
I've been with Broadus.
Okay, all right, so you're just transferring.
Prior to that, I was with the University of Texas in Austin.
Okay.
Some of y'all won't like that, but
Well, I mean, I won't hold it against you as an Aggie, but I understand. Work's work, so I get it. I want to make a comment and just a cautionary note, and I don't know who I need to make it to, whether it's you or Jill, or this will be our 3rd program manager in this process, and we're still very early on. Over the term of this, we could have up to 20 program managers, and I don't think that that's what JPS ever envisioned in partnership with Broadus. So I just want to throw that cautionary tale out there. Glenn, I hope you're here, and I hope you're here for a long time and it all works out. But those things can end up costing us money and losing continuity in the project. So it is a concern, but I'm glad to have you here. Thank you.
and I plan on moving and planting roots here, so I plan on being here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jill?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a comment that I share your concerns, and this is ongoing conversation that we will have.
All right, we'll get started.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Again, my name is Cameron Gertzema, Broadus Levis, and thank you again for the opportunity to brief you on the JPS Master Facility Plan program. Overall, the program is moving ahead with positive progress and active engagement by both the JPS team and their respective contracting partners in programming, planning, design, and active construction, as you see on around our campus. One project, the temporary parking lot, is complete, and 3 are under construction. And those 3 are going to be completed within the next 15 months. And we have 3 more right now in pre-construction and design phases. For the Medical Home Southwest, the PEC and the garage, hold off and address those via the dashboards. The medical outpatient building is on target for budget and schedule, and the team is finalizing the program and is scheduled to begin schematic design in March. Pre-design efforts are presently underway, and we're confirming space allocation and proximities as we prepare for design kickoff. We're focused on optimizing those operations, working with the staff, looking at site circulation and building support, and making certain that we provide a healthcare level of service. Yes, sir.
As far as the hospital, how long do we expect that planning and design? I mean, I know are we doing the hospital design build so that we can?
We're not doing design build.
Okay.
But we are going to start the hospital. We've already started the initial design this month. We start the super design meetings. We have 5 of those scheduled throughout the spring through April. We're going to start those. The first one is in about the first week in February. And that is about a year and a half, and we're working on that schedule right now to pull that back as much as we can in design. When we look at the design that takes about a year and a half, the 2 things that we're really looking at is the CMAR, Austin Commercial, gaining access to the site, starting the enabling project of the ED trauma, as well as just general site work. And as we look at those work packages and those milestones, we're working with the designer to pull those out and pull those early so we can start to actually, proceed with the construction effort.
When might we be able to, have a groundbreaking ceremony for the hospital itself, for the towers?
I would say if we have access, it should be probably it's within the year and a half. I've got to figure that piece out. I don't have an exact date. I would hate to speculate publicly on that without having a conversation with Dr. Duncan and the team. But within that design and then allowing access for the contractor to gain site, this kind of within that window. We just got to figure out what the right time would be.
Okay.
And the right optic
Sure.
that demonstrates that.
Well, I think from the board perspective, we're as soon as humanly possible. So
Right.
I think that's safe to say. But
And one of the things that you look at as indicators is that the garage needs to be complete so we can move public parking over there. And at the same time, we look at access to the site for the enabling project in whatever fashion that will be. But how much of the site access do we have such that it presents that groundbreaking ceremony?
well, planning and design gets lost in time, and you
Yes, sir.
don't see anything happening. And so I just want to make sure that we're tumbling and we're going.
Yes, sir. In fact, we'll look at that and try to get back to the board.
Okay.
With a date that actually can start to plan for that.
Okay. Thank you,
sir. So for the CUP, similar to the MOB, we continue to focus on finalizing the program and budget. We continue to align this project specifically with the hospital design, and we'll be looking closely to coordinate the efforts between those two CMARs, which is Austin Commercial for the hospital and J.E. Dunn for the CUP, to ensure program requirements are met. Additionally, early design efforts by Jacobs continues, and the pre-construction efforts by J.E. Dunn in support are assisting in that effort. As previously stated, the CUP design effort will commence early this spring. And I say previously, that was last month. We just spoke about the hospital. One of the things that Beck presented to us was the concept design. So we have 5 volumes of that with what we're going to move into for schematic design. We've started some of those initial design efforts this month. And then again, in the coming weeks, we'll start with the schematic design in the super design weeks with Beck and Hafer-Welker and the JPS team. We have received pre-design construction submittals for price and schedule from the CMAR, and we're working with all our partners and those subs to start construction later this year. Again, whether that's the enabling project and how we do that with the ED and trauma, and to what extent we gain site access on the temporary parking, but holding schedule and price to the program at present time right now. For the Medical Home Southwest, there's no change to budget. As you stated, sir, the ribbon cutting was successful, and we're thankful for the large attendance in honor of the former Commissioner Brooks, and certainly in anticipation of establishing this outlying healthcare facility for service to the community. The facility continues to remain on track to open up for patient care early Q1 of 2025, and we're working through a phased occupancy and operation with the JPS team right now. And so in these meetings actually are daily with regard to our ability to complete construction work, get to substantial completion, understand the medical equipment, the furniture, and the finishes required, and then incorporate the aspects of operations for the JPS team when we're talking about IT and just operations in general by the staff.
I have already moved in with my
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're ready to register patients?
Register. Yes, sir. We'll get a seat for you in the front. For the PEC, this is on target for budget. Construction progress remains very positive. It's on schedule and continues to proceed according to plan. We're scheduled to deliver this facility in the summer, and with a turnover of the TSP and the interior connector with that addition and renovation this spring. The PEC proper, the larger facility that we walked through, remains to be completed and will go live this summer. There's no issues and concerns from my perspective right now with this project and the progress. The contractor working with JPS behavioral health team has been phenomenal, very proactive engagement, and as you can see that what's going up and what we're going to deliver. This is an exceedingly well-run project. The garage continues to be a success, and we remain on schedule and budget, and at this point, zero recordable safety incidents. This is a phenomenal and very hard constructed project when you talk about precast and 2 cranes operating so close to the city and the public. And to date, their plan and their productivity has been off the charts. The progress by all the members, whether owner, contractor, I have no concerns with this project. The one thing we are working to finalize with JPS and the Women's Health Clinic is the interior build-out of the retail area for the garage in support of the Women's Health Clinic. We're in those discussions and operations right now to finalize that build-out. That is on schedule with regard to what we need to build inside for the coming months to stay on schedule with the garage and the Women's Health Clinic.
Cameron had a question.
Yes, sir.
It says the go-live date on the garage is the spring of next year. So how would you gain site access for a groundbreaking on the hospital until you go live on the garage?
Well, so as I said earlier, that is definitely one of the indicators I've got to look at. What we're looking at is the flexibility in the schedule associated with the garage. So we say spring, is that April, or is it really more actually something based on activation, our ability to push that to the left into something like February? When we look at what we need for access for groundbreaking or that enabling project. The enabling project is on the north end of the existing pavilion, the old pavilion as we call it. And as we site that enabling project, whether that's on the north end or the south end, depending on to what extent we can secure site, that's kind of the issue right now. So it's after the garage, it's totality. Prior to the garage completing, we have to look at what makes the best sense for the optic.
So one follow-up on that, Kim.
Yes, sir.
At this point, schedule-wise, are we planning to make sure that the retail space is occupiable at the same time the garage is finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've not done, or at least in planning committee, we haven't had any discussions about unique configurations of that space relative to real estate market opportunities. Are we going to have some discussion about what that real estate opportunity looks like and how that best can be configured for JPS's interests? That's one of the things we need to do that pretty soon.
Sure.
Yeah, well, that was the plan originally, Dustin, but again, it's still a little bit in flux because there was some discussion about whether or not there might be some JPS interests associated with that retail area. We really never finalized the plan, but it's probably time to get that started.
Does the zoning tie us to retail?
No, it's mixed use. I mean, so we have the
That's right.
ability to use different uses down there, so we're flexible.
We've done some internal work.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we have.
And that internal work is really, largely looking at the campus planning, the departments and divisions where their space allocation is going to be, specifically women's health associated with this portion of it, and how that it's applied to the MOB or the hospital, and large conversations on making sure that no one's left behind.
Scope-wise, we've always counted that space as being a revenue-generating space. And that's one of the things I hope that we keep in the forefront, is because all this is designed to help offset capital costs relative to revenue potential. And if market allows that, then I hope that's what we follow up on. But to the extent we need to bring this back before planning and dig into it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and those, to have it ready to lease means that whatever fixtures, whatever applications are going to have to be used to make it ready for that, we're going to have thought through.
Yeah, there's different.
That is different. Correct.
Our retail, what is this?
I want to say it's roughly 20,000 some square feet. Yes, sir.
The system like it would be a great location for a pharmacy.
We are going to have pharmacy services.
In the garage?
Patient pharmacy.
On the first floor retail
On the
area.
first, okay.
And that's a JPS run component that doesn't necessarily limit our ability to market the rest of the property. We've always thought, Dr. Holland, that we would probably end up subdividing that space with different users, and pharmacies has been one that I think we've assumed to be the case. But again, I would just like for us to get a plan together that shows here's the available space, here's the intended use, here's the potential revenue production on it, and the sooner we can put that at a policy level, the better, from my perspective.
We'll be glad to do it. That is kind of straight front kind of retail, which from a security standpoint, I think we have to take into account. So sometimes putting things such as pharmacy and give it that much visibility becomes difficult to manage.
Security concerns there.
So
that makes
we'll
sense.
take that all into account.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. And then the only final two comments is that we're working with our enterprise consultants. So these are the consultants that we hired via JPS or Broadus Levis team that provide technical support to the broader good of the program. Burns Engineering has been supporting us with security and IT solutions across the board, so we have them on board. Was approved way back in the day by this board. And the other one by Townsend and Associates. So we've started the audit with the PEC, and this month we'll begin the audits with the medical home, the garage, and the temporary parking. So that's underway as well to make sure that we're following the right practices and procedures in the interest of the public funds.
Is that an audit that JPS is? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. A third-party audit, and they're from the outside on behalf of JPS to make certain that our contractors are billing appropriately and the due diligence is there associated with accounting standards.
Okay, just want to make sure we have the visibility on that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And have been part of the scoping. Okay.
More so. JPS will.
I don't know, Zim may have brought this up when he was a member of the board, and when we're talking about the current budget forecast, that's not really giving me, and y'all can explain it to me if I'm an Aggie, so sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. It's not really, it's telling me the budget forecast, but it doesn't really tell me where we are on the spend. I mean, the bar chart, kind of gives me an idea where we are on the spend, but like, if we take the Southwest Medical Home, for example, total project cost is $39 million. The line graph is telling me that we're under budget. I understand we probably have some spend yet on furniture, fixtures, equipment, and computers and stuff, but is that project going to be under or over the $39 million?
Right now, we're trending on budget under.
Under.
So we're not trending over, and then there is a lag there just by financial accounting systems, as well as just contractor invoicing.
Okay.
It's just stuff that we need to process that will catch up. So there is a little bit of a lag there on those charts.
Okay.
But
yeah, the forecast tells me what it is, but I don't have any recollection of what it originally was to have an idea of where we actually stand. But.
And what we can look at is that we are very adroit at tracking this and working with Rory and team in JPS on where we spend our dollars and how we spend our dollars and with whom. And so that's reconciled weekly and then more so specifically monthly in that case.
Well, I think the board is very cognizant of where we go over budget, but I think we're all really interested to find out where we can actually save some money and come under budget.
Yes, sir.
So being able to see that relatively easily is important for me.
I'm sorry, you said you expect us to stay under budget on the medical home?
I do, right now. At present time, yes.
Because of value engineering, or what's the delta?
Well, I think just more so because of, when we set the FGMP, the guaranteed maximum price of the contractor, and what we did through the design build process, and they're estimating that we've been specifically on target. And we did, this goes back to the Reverend talking earlier about when you talk about owner contingency for some of the unknowns, we've had some money that allowed the owner to reconcile some of the design issues that we might not have accounted for that we budgeted for, but we knew they were unknowns, and so it's allowed us to stay within the target price of the building.
Hope on future projects?
I would say yes for the garage and yes for the PAC, absolutely. But again, we're not done yet, and so as we get closer, those are always kind of the harder times to reconcile the eaches of the, oh, I forgot. I don't think we've done that to date on a scale that would have me concerned. Just knowing the industry and how we do this, sometimes it does become a challenge at the end. But where we are today, we're doing really well with these 4 projects, because the temp parking was under budget.
But it'll be important, Tim, to your question, that we stay on time with it, because time is what cost us.
Yes, ma'am.
The change in the attachment to the pavilion, as you recall, was made, in which we weren't going to make that connector, but just go ahead and start building the hospital. I mean, that helps save on time and should help save on money. So we will continue to pressure the teams to get this probably done sooner than later, so.
Yeah, I think that one of the hidden costs we have to be cognizant of that we can't help with all the national disasters that's going to drive up material costs.
I just want to make sure that your report is reflecting what I think it is. If I'm looking at the one for the medical home on your cash flow cumulative, and we're in 2024 quarter 3, the projected cost was $35.5 billion, and then we are actually at 27.3. That's what's in your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
that's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was reading that report correctly. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to item 10, consider matters requiring board action and/or approval, and we'll start with our CFO update and consider approval of the November and December 2024 unaudited financial reports. Happy New Year, Rory.
Thank you, Chairman Fisher and members of the board. We will get into our financial report today. The financial packet, as you can see, has been undergoing quite the makeover. I like where it's headed. There's still a few kinks to kind of work out in that packet, but I do like where we are headed with that. We had our first bond rating presentation this week, and happy to report that that actually went very well. You don't often get feedback on an actual ratings call that they're going to give you favorable outcomes, so to actually get that in a call is pretty unusual. So we have 3 more of those rating meetings coming up shortly.
S&P or Moody's, who was that?
Fitch was this week. So, and then we have Kroll, S&P, and Moody's. We are closely following legislation proposals at the federal level specifically, and the state level. I stuck my head in Ashley's office and said, you get to earn your paycheck this time of year. So there's a lot going on at the federal level, and really thankful for her to be able to help us through that legislation and the impact to hospitals.
Yeah, Rory, on that point, and Ashley, the bills were filed yesterday and already updated for Medicaid. And if you have a chance, maybe next board meeting, if you could kind of give us the scope of what you think that Medicaid is going to cover relative to uncompensated care and impact on JPS, because I think there's probably going to be some additional legislation filed against that omnibus financing bill relative to, especially to uncompensated care allocation. And that's one of those things we got to stay really close to, really on top of. So if we get a chance to bring that back, Mr. Chairman, that might be.
Yeah, we've had internal conversations. We think there's going to be a lot that's going to go on. And so Ashley has agreed to continue to update us. And then we always have conversations about where we see the impact could be for the district. And we'll be glad to send that, I mean, we're looking to do it weekly, but be glad to send it out to the board too, if that would be helpful instead of waiting
I'd
until a
love to
board
see
meeting.
that.
Okay,
And
we'll be
maybe
glad to share
even
that.
Maybe even supplement that with Hillco information so that we can have kind of an outlook of what they're seeing, because there's a lot right now.
It's a moving target, it really is.
Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. It's definitely, when you look at the volume of healthcare-related proposals in legislation, it's pretty ominous. So we're doing our best to work through that. Would like to quickly just mention that we hired a supply chain executive, Charles Cobb, as you look back to the room, back left, he's back there. We welcome him to the team. He has an extensive background in the public sector with UT Southwestern and also has a military logistics background. So I call him a really good free agent acquisition for the team. And he will work closely with operations with Jill and, of course, certainly the financial component. So your narrative is in your packet as usual. We will be reporting, as Roger mentioned, both quarter one financials through December, but also November will be in your packet. We won't speak to November. We'll just look at the year-to-date results, and then we'll take a motion at the end on both of those. And I would also like to mention at the end of the presentation, I will be doing a quick update on the future fund. So the income statement for the month of through December really had a good quarter, but we also had what I would call some additional items that we had to account for. We had one particular entry affecting net revenue in the month of December. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the closed session. And then we had a little bit of cost report adjustment. We have been receiving more Medicare uncompensated care in our claims this year, so we're having to set aside a little bit more for the end of the year settlement. And then we also received a DISH refund. As you know, DISH is based on your proportion of Medicaid days and uncompensated days, and that funding is determined by that proportion. And as they go back and look and reconcile, other facilities may lose some dollars, and those may come back to us, and that's kind of the basis of the refund on DISH. So that was about $5.1 million. So you'll see supplemental funding for the month is favorable, about $5.4 million, and then that also translates to a year-to-date favorability. But you also see net revenue for the month down a little bit. I mentioned that. We'll talk about in that closed session. But all in all, we see a very strong top side of the income statement year-to-date, $7.2 million over budget. Specialty pharmacy, as you know, is an initiative that we brought forth during the budget retreat. That is going very, very well, off to a great start, and that's really why you see that additional revenue there in that category. Joy and her team are working very fast and furious on the progress around that, so we expect that to grow through the rest of the year. Salaries, really the story here is we do not have really market and merit accounted for in the first quarter. Those come later in the year, so you have a little bit of favorability in salaries. Contract labor is trending up a little bit on non-nursing positions. So nursing continues to do an exceptional job in contract. We have some other areas. So that gets you through salaries. Purchase services is always one of those things that we have a little bit of timing differences. A lot of our initiatives take time to ramp up as you begin contracting, and so I would really just attribute the favorability to just mostly timing in expenses, and expect those to ramp up throughout the year. And then supplies, I mentioned specialty pharmacy. In your supply category, you have drugs as well. So that is also up on volume. And then one quick note in other operating, really shout out to the IT team. We have this massive web of circuitry internet bandwidth. So they've done a great job actually shutting down unused circuits, and we've saved a tremendous amount of money throughout the year, so we appreciate that. And then non-operating, you remember, I think, hopefully, that there was a proposal brought forth for a land sale in Arlington that did close in the month of December, so that is reflected in the other operating revenue for the month of December. And of course, you see that reflected year to date. On a year-to-date or quarterly basis, we show 18 million positive variance. I would like to point out that 10 million of that is in those kind of unexpected items. That land sale was not budgeted for, and also the dish refund was not budgeted for. So accounting for those two items, you are really a little closer to budget at about 8 million favorable. And then I would mention that a claim is also about 227,000 favorable to their budget. So that's a quick wrap on the income statement. If no questions?
Roy, on the, you made the comment that on the salaries, we haven't, yes, it's necessarily accrued the merit increases, the other one, but as to year to date, this does reflect all of the merit increases and the salary elements that would have been accrued to 24 calendar year, right?
Yeah, certainly. Market is usually once a year. Merit is spread out throughout the year, especially for our front line team members, and then executive merit is typically once a year.
Okay.
So what I'm speaking to is there's more budget dollars in later quarters for that, that we would budget for that quarter.
Okay, so save and accept the unexpected revenue from the land sale, these numbers really reflect in the year in terms of the 24. We're really, on track with what we have here. So
it's first quarter for 25 fiscal year is what
8 million. We're running around 8 million net ahead.
Correct. If you account for those two items, it's about 8 million. If you were to multiply that by 4, it'd be 32 million for the year.
Great.
Except for those extraordinary items.
Great.
So, yeah, good questions. All right, balance sheet. We'll go real quickly through a couple of things. One thing I like to point out on the cash and temporary investments, as we project the future fund contribution in December, that we, when we account for that, we look out and we say, what can we contribute to the future fund based on future cash flows? And when you look at cash year to date versus the prior year, almost just a $4 million difference. That really speaks to our ability to look at what we need to put in the future fund and really take out of operations those dollars and move them down to those board designated funds. So that is a good reflection that we are consistently keeping that cash flow projected and estimated, and then also the ability to kind of keep our expenses in line with what we budgeted as well. Net AR, point out real quick, it is up $10 million, and being the accounts receivable executive, that gets my heart going a little bit, but really we have CHIRP funding that's delayed in that net AR, and so that we've really seen cash begin to come in December and January to kind of help reduce that net accounts receivable. And then, of course, you see your board restricted fund there did increase for future fund contributions obviously from the prior year. Any questions on balance sheet for December? Okay. This is the cash flow summary. I have been asked in previous months to bring forth a cash flow summary at least quarterly for JPS, and this is actual cash flow for the quarter. It looks a little bit unusual, as if you are maintaining your household, you would not expect to see such excessive cash flow going out but not coming in. But there is a significant timing difference in when we receive some of our revenues, most notably ad valorem taxes. So we really have more expenditures in the quarter than we have some of those ad valorem revenues, and of course we will catch up in the in January, February, and when those payments do come in. You do note a little bit of negative inflow, $98 million. That is the future fund contribution. And so it's flowing out of operations in short-term funds into longer-term funds. And then you have the land sale, of course, noted below your capital expenditures for disbursements. That's the proceeds of the Arlington sale. So want to bring a cash flow to you guys at least quarterly, but expect it will obviously change quite a bit as those revenues begin to flow in.
Rory, a couple questions. So the negative $7 million, this is proceeds from sale of capital assets?
Yeah, we broke it out separately. You would normally kind of roll the capital expenditures and the sale together as a net item, but we broke it out so you guys could see that in the month.
So what is that, the negative $7 million?
That's the proceeds from the Arlington land sale. So it's accounted for in the capital expenditures as an offset to that in the cash flow summary.
I guess I'm not, if that's cash, we sold land and we got cash, wouldn't that be part of your cash receipts?
I guess the best way I can answer that is accounting rules. I can follow up if you need a deeper explanation,
okay.
but that's just the way the accounting rules stipulate that reporting.
And then the negative $98 million under cash receipts, that's the amount we added to the future fund.
So yeah, so we didn't lose $98 million in cash receipts. We moved it out of short term.
Right, but this is a cash flow for unrestricted cash.
Yeah, more operations.
All right, that's why you subtracted that out.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Okay, performance ratios is also in your packet. I would just say from this slide, there's a couple of leadership metrics for your executive team: supply cost per adjusted patient day and total expenses per adjusted patient day. And those are both on track year to date on those performance metrics. Operating cash on hand is right at 186 days. And that would be, of course, above the board designated minimum of 180 days. And then, of course, AR days continue to be stable in those performance ratios.
And the unrestricted cash does or does not include the future fund contribution?
The unrestricted cash days is at, I mean, they're broken out separately here. Is that your question?
My question is, when we characterize unrestricted cash, is that including the balance of the future fund or not?
Yeah, so the way the auditors report that on the audit report, they include it in unrestricted cash, but we actually break it out excluded.
Okay, great.
So you got the three numbers there.
Yeah, so you need to be able to keep that with the future funds.
Okay, statistical highlights. What I would say without going through all of these, when you look at the prior year, you were without exception up and down the line above your prior year statistics for the quarter. So when you look at December 2024 versus last year, everything is above the prior year with the exception of CMI, I believe. So sometimes we are thinking through budgets and we try to be too conservative on our statistics to kind of hedge a little. We've done a really good job, I think, budgeting up, but also achieving those statistics. You see very exceptional job in clinic visits. I would really give them, I spoke with Joy yesterday around their ability to work on physician templates, scheduling, and maximizing that, and they are running at a tremendous pace in the clinics. And then emergency visits continue to trend upward. Even the psychiatric emergency center is above last year's visits as well. Like I said, the lone exception to that is case mix index, and Dr. K and I have been looking extensively at case mix index, and really narrowed in on a couple things, NICU patients, not as much severity in NICU, and then also some higher case mix cardiac patients. And then at the bottom of your report, you see kind of a new indicator as a new patient rolling 12. So that's new patients to JPS in a rolling 12-month period, up about roughly 5,000 patients over the prior period from the prior year. So very positive volume indicators through the first quarter.
Connection patients or?
Not necessarily, just new in total.
Okay.
Right, could be insured as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we define a new patient?
Never been to the system before. Yes, that's correct. Yep. All right, a couple of things on graphs real quickly. The most notable thing I would say here is on the cash collections. You do see in the month of December that cash, the far right bar, really does outpace the green line, which is your budgeted cash, and that is a reflection of us catching up on that CHIRP funding, those payments. And then on the supporting, these are more supporting goals is what I would call, we have these labeled as financial metrics, but these are some of our finance supporting goals. Really, I would notate that specialty pharmacy pace through the first quarter is really one of the things that really is impressive, and these are certainly good indicators. We have some positive indicators in these additional supporting metrics. So probably appropriate to, if you have no other questions, take a motion, and then I'll do a quick future fund slide or two here, if we want to take a motion to approve the financials.
Does anybody have any further questions in regards to the November and December 2024 financial reports? Again, we didn't really cover November. We took care of it with the year-to-date in December.
I'll move to approve the budget as presented.
Thank you. Got a motion? I've got a second. I'll give that to Tim. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, great. Thanks, Rory.
Okay, so one of the things we've been asked to do and have been working towards is to provide you some level of information. And this projection is not in your packet. It was a late edition, so it's on the screen. So please, I apologize for that. But we want to be able to say what is our ability to fund the future fund going forward based on the need. And so through 25, our projection is that, as you see, we have bond proceeds of $800 million, you have a future fund balance, and you have additional contribution expected, and then your project costs. So what is the deficit for that future fund? Right now it's set roughly after the end of 25 at $182 million. You have about 4 years to fund the additional needs for the project. And so on an annual contribution, you need to make about $45 million a year. And just breaking that down per month, it's about right at $4 million in excess cash flow per month to meet the needs of that future fund. And so right now for 26, which would be our contribution in December of this year, we are trending more around a $23.2 million contribution projection. So that would lower our overall deficit in the future fund need, but it would put stress on the future years to kind of catch back up. So we are expecting to have less cash flow in that 26 contribution. As you look at 25, you see the contribution there. That is really as a result of the really good year in 24. So we were able to fund 25 through that good year in 24 that we had. So I will give you a little bit different look. My clicker is, so here's it on a summary level. We expect to generate through the end of 25 additional net income over budget, $44 million. And of that $44 million, $21 million is not eligible for transfer. As you see, it's investment income on unspent bond proceeds. So IRS guidelines, we cannot transfer that money to a future fund. So we will really net out roughly $23.2 million. That's our projection. And that is fiscal year 26, which would be this December on the calendar. And then, of course, you see a graph here that kind of shows what we need and then what we project. So I know that's the first time you've seen that, may have some questions, but wanted to bring this together in a simplified format that hopefully we can explain. So,
Question, Rory, you're, I guess, kind of like the weather forecaster trying to predict the fiscal year budget 8 months out, right? So through September 30th. How do you predict that? We've already had several surprises, positive surprises in December.
we have a pretty sophisticated 5-year forecast, and in that 5-year forecast would be the rest of this year. And so, I think the key word would be projection. There are going to be pluses and there are going to be minuses throughout the rest of the year. And this is based on budget, if we hit budget. So if we get unexpected items, be it positive or negative, that's going to swing that projection.
But like looking at the performance, forget the surprises, sales of land or dish money, but just looking at the positive performance just through the first quarter of this year that you just presented to us, is that factored into this? Do you think that positive performance is going to continue, or are you going to come back more to the norm?
I would expect on the expense side, we would definitely come back more towards the norm. The revenue side is a little bit of a question mark for me. We have, and I'll tell you why, commercial revenues in the marketplace plans, we have a new contract with WellPoint, and then Cigna is probably going to lose membership. And so our revenues will largely be determined by kind of that commercial payer mix being favorable. That's a big factor in our net revenue. And then, of course, if our volumes continue to be steady and above budget, we would see a little bit better net revenue. But I think to answer your question, we do the best we can to project. It is a budget, and we'll have positives and negatives. And but this is something we would probably want to keep you guys abreast of. Monthly, quarterly, so you kind of see this. It's not a one-time. It's not a one-time guess here. We got to keep working towards the actual projection.
Mr. Chairman, could we get this report on the Planning Finance Committee agenda?
Sure.
So that we can dive in a little bit.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of assumptions in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of assumptions, and part of it is Rory, I'm assuming in your projections, you're keeping the tax rate the same? You're not going up or down with it?
That's a very correct statement and a very big notation.
And part of it is just to keep the notoriety and the familiarity as we go, instead of just talking about the impact in June or July, it's talking about it year-round, that we still have a pretty important hole to fill. Although it's much smaller than it has been, it's still a pretty big hole to fill. But yeah, I'm happy to put that there and keep the conversation up. Rory, I don't understand the bond funds, under the restricted bond proceeds. Those are bonds for the master facilities plan, right? That 23 million?
The issue is they're tax exempt, so you can't issue tax exempt bonds, make money off them, and then plow them into a future fund. It's really IRS regulation around tax exempt.
But the funds have to be used for the project, so that number could come off the 2.124.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's factored into that. And if we earn more than what we pay for the bonds, you get into an arbitrage situation where we have to pay back. Yeah. So, you just can't, it has to be really contained within that project, the master facility plan.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I think it's important, especially as we get close and we know there's going to be continued pressure on tax rate, that we talk about it and just keep it in everybody's cognizant in everybody's minds.
You know, I did ask Rory to present this, because this is information that we work on internally to understand where we need to be. We do understand that we need to fund the future fund and be prepared to complete the master facility plan. So it gives us opportunity. If we were to wait to look at this at the end of the year, we would not have opportunity to start to make operational changes. We may start to accelerate some of our supply chain work, some of our labor management that we're starting. We may start to accelerate that. And so we are always having conversation around how are we going to meet the requirement at the end of the year. So that was my reason for bringing it forward, was really to say that, you know, we understand what the need is and work very hard from an operational side to meet that need. And as Rory said, if we don't meet it this year, we got to figure out how to do it the next year, but we do understand what that goal is for us.
I really appreciate it being presented that simply and to the fact. I think everybody needs to know. I think it's great.
Appreciate it.
Can we get those slides in?
Yes, we'll put them in the portal.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a few questions here for Rory, if you don't mind me asking. So what is our minimum days of cash for operating? What's our requirement within our charter?
It's board designated at 180.
At 180, okay. Yes. And what is that total amount of cash approximately?
Well, you would ask me that. It'd be 180 times $4.5 million. So I'll have to do the math for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it takes $4.5 million to run JPS daily, and 180 days times $4.5 million would be
nearly $1 billion or
close,
or something of that nature. So is it? Are we making a return on that cash? Is that correct?
Oh, yes. A significant investment income currently.
3 to 4% ish.
It's running. Yeah, last year's 4.5, I think.
So our cash, I mean, we haven't really spoke about that as a part of, but obviously we can't touch it because that's, restricted for operations, but it should generate, $30 to $40 million during today's climate of rates.
Yeah, I think where we've benefited from, and I think it's important to remember, is what have rates done? They've risen, so we've benefited from that.
Right.
That will adjust at some point. We're not looking at an interest rate that's going to remain at probably 5-6% going into the future. It's going to calibrate, and so that will provide less of that additional cash from our investments. And as you spend on the master facility plan, those dollars are no longer going to be there to earn. So that's also important to remember.
Right. But I was talking about the corpus of the requirement for the 180 days. I mean, we can't reduce, we can't dip into that, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we could make a decision to drop below that as a board, but that is generally a metric or a marker that our bond rating agencies
I was going to say that would affect our bond
like to
rating.
see. I mean, there are public hospitals in Texas that are at 75 days cash on hand.
Right.
We don't want to be there.
How
So
do we compare to our peers like a Parkland? What do they operate on?
we would rank, I believe, second out of 5 on days cash on hand. The only one I believe that's currently above us is Harris. If you go back to the December report, the audit report, it's in there.
Yep.
I don't have that exact number in my head, but yeah, we rank. When you pull out that future fund, though, we rank very close to the norm with our peers.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Rory, related to the arbitrage issue on the bonds, and this is going back a little bit, but on your cash flow summary, you showed debt and interest payments of only $687,000. That's a very low number. Is that net of what we're earning on the bond proceeds that are invested? That's on the cash flow summary.
So you're saying on your disbursements?
At the bottom, yeah, debt and interest payments, $687,000. If you've got $450 million at a rate of what is the rate on those bonds? A little under
It's 4%. Let me reconcile that for you. It's a good question.
It'd be about 6%, 16 million a year in interest alone, forgetting principal.
Yeah, which would be roughly, I think we projected about $1.5 million per month in the interest expense.
Right.
That's less than that. So yeah, let me reconcile that for you.
I'm assuming that's net of, because I don't.
Could be.
I also don't see interest earnings anywhere on there either, so I'm assuming they're netted.
Yeah, let me get back to you on that.
Okay,
I will
thanks.
definitely follow up on that. Good question.
Any other questions, comments for Rory? All right, Rory, thank you.
I think I'm due up.
Oh, yeah, you're up. Yeah, you and Ms. Phillips. Item B, consider approval of pricing agreement between Inari Medical and Tarrant County Hospital.
Yeah, so I have my nursing executive here. Phyllis, thank you for joining me. Do you need a mic or? I would note on these supply chain contracts, I fully expect Charlie to get engaged to present those in the future, but today we're kind of tag teaming those until he gets kind of up to speed. This, to my knowledge, this is an agreement related to treatment of venous thromboembolism.
Yes.
I will let you.
So big blood clots, it's our ability to utilize these tools to remove them and increase the technology. We actually already have an existing contract, so it is new generation supplies that we are incorporating in this particular contract. And I welcome any questions.
So is this surgical venous thromboembolism?
These are actually done in the cath lab, so, but invasive nonetheless, yes. So if you could picture, the easiest way to probably say this is if you could picture my hand being the instrument and I'm going through a vessel and grabbing the blood clot that may be causing a stroke, may be causing a blood clot in your calf muscle, and I'm grabbing a hold to that and I'm pulling it back out. So in essence, that's the short and down to the point of the actual supplies that are necessary, the instruments that are necessary, and that's what this contract represents.
So, Phyllis and Rory, the summary says there's 7 vendors. But it looks like we're voting on 2 of those 7 today. And if that's the case, when will we see the other 5?
You won't, because they won't meet the board threshold for approval.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the story there. So there's multiple vendors that are needed to supply the devices for the vascular anatomy, but only 2 of those triggered that threshold.
Which is $500,000.
That is correct. Yep.
Over the life of the contract.
That is correct. Yep. So 837.8 on this particular agreement with Penumbra, and then 4.1 over the contract term.
Anybody have any questions or comments? I'll seek a motion.
Move to approve.
And a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion?
I think I got out of order. This Inara is the first contract.
That's what I was fixing. Yeah.
Yeah, I got out of order. That's my fault. Inari is the first one, and I have the numbers were accurate. I just gave you the wrong name. 8. Inara is $748 annually and $3.7 million over the contract term. And then let's take a motion on that one, Roger. I apologize.
Are they the same supplies?
Sorry, this is 10B, right?
Yes, 10B, yes.
Sorry.
Is Penumbra the same type of
It's
supply?
a little bit different. It's stroke revascularization.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna make Rory an honorary nurse.
Yeah, he's doing good.
The hang of this is good.
I've been cautioned against that by Dr. Duncan many times.
So they're like in, that they're both thrombectomy type or DVT or venous removal systems, if you will. The biggest reason why we end up introducing to you 2 different contracts is because depending on the outcomes for those patients, the comorbidities for those patients as to which ones physicians would be using. So That's the reason why we're asking for 2 different companies, because they present 2 different items, but do the same thing, if you will.
Trent, can we amend your motion to have A and B?
Please.
Or, I'm sorry, B and C?
Please do that.
Dorothy, is your second still good? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion's passed. Thank you.
Apologize for the confusion.
No, that's
there.
okay. Thank you. All right. Item D, 10D, consider approval of service order for quote number 51099 between WRG LLC and Tarrant County.
Yes, this is the request for purchase and installation of our furniture and furnishings for the new psychiatric emergency center from WRG for a little over $1 million, which is budgeted in the master facility program.
Okay. Any discussion?
Jill, do you think that the $1 million is all the furnishings for the PEC, or will there be more expenditures to come?
This is the RFP selection for all the furnishings, so this should be it, yes.
This takes care of all the needs
Yeah,
for
the
furniture?
desk, the chairs, all the different furniture items.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion.
Move approval.
I have a motion. And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. 10E, consider approval, number one, exemption to bid, and number two, master agreement between Abbott Rapid DX North America LLC and Tarrant County Hospital.
Yeah. All right, good morning, yes. So this request, this agreement allows us to update our Finian Abbott Rapid point-of-care testing devices for A1C for our diabetics. And so this, I'm requesting exemption to bid because the devices and the consumables that would go together are proprietary, and so seeking your approval for us to bring in these updated devices and associated supplies.
Okay. I'll seek a motion for number one, exemption to bid, and for number two, for the agreement. Still holds? Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. F is consider approval of number one, exemption to bid, and number two, Fourth Amendment to the blood service agreement between Carter Blood Care and Tarrant County Hospital District.
So we're seeking exemption to bid. Carter, as you know, has been our provider for blood products as well as management, and this contract allows for us to continue to procure the blood products that we need as a level 1 trauma. It's exempt to bid, but they are the regional provider of blood products in this area and are able to provide the volume that the organization needs.
Okay, that sounds pretty important. Any discussion?
Move approval.
I've got a motion for the exemption to bid and the agreement, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item G, there's a small typo. Consider approval of purchase agreement between Hill Rom Holdings Incorporated and Tarrant County Hospital District.
All right, this, we're excited for this. This is a purchase agreement through our GPO through Vizient. It allows us to provide 72 of our Hill-Rom beds to our med-surg units. As you know, we use our Hill-Rom nurse call system, so it provides that integration. So we're excited to be able to procure these beds and move them into our med-surg units.
Cool.
Question, Joy. How old are the existing Stryker beds?
That is a great question. I would say it's going on 7 or 8+ years now. I think when we first rolled out some tent, yeah. That's when we came. I was like, I always did judge things. I'm like, Dr. Duncan, that was when we came, because I remember that conversation. So it's been about 7 or 8 years when the Stryker beds.
So this will be a significant upgrade in technology.
Yes, and for our nursing, I know that Phyllis here could speak to that, but just for the ease of our staff to be able to monitor for our patients, and the integration is critical and key.
Yeah, how do these integrate with the pressure wound system we approved a few months ago?
Yeah, so that is, I don't know the exact how, but I do know that it provides an interface like our
The
technical
flux capacitor.
team. Right. Yes.
The lease system is separate. Now, these beds obviously provide pressure support, right? Because they're upgraded, obviously, for all of wound care and things like that. But the leaf system that you're referring to is actually a sensor system that monitors the patient and ensures that they're turning. So it doesn't integrate into this technology or particular bed.
Yeah.
It's a sensor that's placed on the patient.
They run in parallel, not
They are.
necessarily in.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
they're both opportunities to improve wound care for sure.
Great.
I'm impressed, Tim.
I am too.
You know,
That's a good memory.
I'm ready to talk about revascularization after
All right. Well, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Got a motion? Second. Any further discussion? Tim, any more insight or professional
I'll let you
advice
guys
you'd like to
know.
provide?
You know, I can only do so much at once.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item H, consider approval of purchase agreement between Safe Life Protection LLC and Tarrant County Hospital District.
So we went out for RFP. This provides us both the labor, supplies, and all the equipment that's needed to change out our fire alarm system at our surgical center in Arlington at Jessica, and to put that in. And so the current system is at end of life, and so it needs to be replaced.
How does end of life work for that? I mean, I office in a 20-year-old building, and
You might be at end of life.
it's all the same things, and
Yeah,
the
well-
fire department doesn't come every day, but
I think when you think about like the ability to procure other supplies to support that, so when they're having to, they say we don't support this anymore from that system and bring in those supplies, that's to us is end of life. And of course, we rely on, that terminology from equipment with our equipment team. But certainly, when we had Joint Commission survey, this was something that was identified
yeah,
as an
that's why
opportunity.
my next question
Yeah.
would be, does Joint Commission look at that kind of thing?
Yep, they do.
Yeah, they definitely do, but we have agility that's here that actually kind of helps us determine the amount we're spending on service. So if we're calling quite a bit, if the parts aren't available, so all of that then starts to look at the cost analysis. Is it cheaper just go ahead and replace and stop trying to fix it? But we do have, the fire department does come out and make suggestions, so.
Great.
Yep.
Any
Couple terminology is vintage. They're unwilling to support updates. Vintage.
Vintage, okay. And vintage is good in some situations, but not with.
Not in your fire
Not in
safety.
your, no, not in your fire safety, yeah.
any further discussion or a motion?
Move approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
I got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item I, consider approval of modernization agreement between Southwest Elevator LLC and Tarrant County.
So this allows us to modernize our trauma elevator, which is, as you know, we've been taking these elevators as they come forward and doing modernization. So this is the next one that we will be taking care of. And again, this was awarded through the RFP process. And so seeking your approval for us to proceed with this modernization of this elevator.
Troy, how many elevators are involved in this contract?
One.
Just one?
This is just a specific modernization. Certainly that we have a service agreement with Southwest that they do our maintenance and repairs on everything. But this specifically, as we go out for a modernization of the elevator, we go out separately for that.
Joey, how many elevators do we have throughout the system?
Oh, gosh. I have a sheet back in my desk that has every single one, but over 50, 60, I mean, it's, when you talk across the entire network of elevators that we have.
How many trauma elevators do we have?
So two.
Two.
And so we have a backup that we'll be using as we're modernizing this elevator.
How long will this process take to finish?
I don't have the exact date, or for that timing, I have to get back with you.
Okay.
It's usually, I think, at least 3 to 6 months for that. I mean, but by the time you get it, you have to get it also certified, inspected back in to circulation and everything with regulatory bodies.
Will this be essentially a new elevator when it's finished?
Yes. If you came up the red elevators, you can see kind of the modernization that inside internal and all the mechanisms and supports associated with it.
And Southwest has been a very good recent partner.
They have been, yes. And certainly, again, when you go back to inspections that we've had, we just had our huge regulatory visit, all of those things from a safety standpoint, very responsive to us. When we have any type of needs, they've been a good partner.
What is, you said modernization. Does that mean like we're changing out cables? We're changing out the elevator itself?
Yes, all of the mechanics and everything behind the scenes, and then also on that internal that you see in the interior.
I'll ask for a motion. Got a motion to approve? And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Joey, you spent all the money today. It's Ashley's turn. Item J is consider approval of a professional services agreement between Workers Assistance Program Incorporated, doing business as Alliance Work Partners, and Tarrant County Hospital District.
So this contract is to implement an EAP wraparound service for our employees. Currently, we have a small but mighty EAP team on site, but they certainly cannot service all of the needs of our employees, and this contract will allow us to be able to provide additional sessions and several other wraparound resources to improve mental fitness and resilience among our workforce.
Great. Any questions or comments?
I do. Ashley, what sort of questions or problems, issues can employees bring to this group?
So anything. Essentially, this group is staffed with licensed clinicians. Many of these EAP services, when you call them, you essentially get a call center and then they refer you to someone to be able to talk to. But this particular option is actually staffed with clinicians. So when you call, you're able to get intervention. Typically, we have, typical grief counseling. They can provide therapy sessions. The way this contract is set up, depending on the issue, an employee can be eligible for up to 6 to 8 sessions based on whatever, mental need they have or if they're facing a challenge. The other thing that I think is really cool about this is that there are a lot of other life services. So when you think about the ability to engage in training, they will come on site and train our leaders, staff. They have webinars, resources available. They even have something that I think is amazing, which is a service that will provide emergency reimbursement for cab fare if an employee is out and feeling unsafe or impaired. And so this is a really robust service, and they will cover any need that a person has that they feel like they need to talk to somebody.
And does this group also help with benefit questions with the benefit plans or claim issues?
So no, that's not what this is for. That's a separate service that's provided by Cigna, essentially. But this primarily allows the employees to talk to someone if they're having a challenge. This also will cover their household. So if they have dependents who are having challenges or need to talk through something, then there is support for them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley, is this a new service or is this a replacement of something we've had?
So I would say that it's both and. So we had a service built into Symetra when I came here. And one of the things that I did when I came is I called every vendor and acted as if I was just the average employee. And quite frankly, I was appalled that people were in crisis and being transferred to then be able to schedule an appointment. And so one of the things we looked at was how do we provide a more robust service. So this is, I would say the other one was a referral service. This is a true EAP wraparound.
Do we have, I can understand where this gets sensitive, but do we have any idea of utilization of these services?
So of this particular service, no, because it's new, but we do have, and I can bring you actually a dashboard that we have for EAP. So we had, I think it was 35,000 encounters last year.
Oh, okay.
Whether that be group rounding or individual rounding or therapy, but I actually have a dashboard, and I was looking at it this morning. I'll share it with you all.
I think it's a great service. I just want to make sure it's being utilized,
It's
utilization.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
So the dashboard that you would provide is for what we're doing internally?
It is. And the other thing that we are starting to track is where we're unable to accommodate the service. So we have 3 full-time clinicians that provide EAP services, but we don't have the ability to provide as much support through therapy sessions as we need. And so this provides 24/7 support. The other thing that this does is provide a pathway for people who may not feel comfortable leveraging internal EAP services. Although we are very discreet and confidential, there are folks that may not feel completely comfortable talking to someone internal to the organization.
So an employee can choose to use our internal personnel or to call the vendor.
That is correct.
But I guess you can only call our own employees for help during business hours or certain times.
So there are core business hours. We do have the ability to connect with them virtually so that they can self-schedule an appointment based on what's available. But the biggest challenge is the availability. We don't have enough therapists and enough hours in their schedule to be able to accommodate all of the needs. The other part of that, though, is that part of our role is not just to provide reactive support, it's really to lean more into proactive support. So as we assess the efficacy of EAP externally, we will reevaluate how we redeploy our internal resources to focus on proactive mental fitness and resilience interventions, rounding, and training.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll ask for a motion. Got a motion to approve?
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. Thank you, Ashley. We do not have a consent agenda there. All those items were passed on December 12th. We will reconvene now at 11:35 into executive session, and we will come back shortly after that. Thank you. Take a few as recommended, with the exception of number 79 that's in your packet. I will ask for a motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The next of which I'll turn over to Daphne to speak about a specific motion.
I am requesting from the board settlement authority in connection with the item that we discussed in close at the amount that was proposed.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Approval.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Got one opposition, Blake Woodard. Any further? No, we're done with that. Okay. Motion passes. With no further business, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.